So finally, I've got stuff back in the greenhouse. It feels like an eternity since I've had stuff going on in here. Now, I've left it a bit later this year. Last year I went quite early with a lot of things, but this year I thought I don't want to be using the gas heater in here again. Well, not this year anyway, the price of gas and everything at the minute. So I've left it later, and we'll see how things turn out. We're leaving it a bit later. If we can get away with leaving it later every year, we'll leave it that little bit later. But how we've done it this way, so far, I would say how we've done it this year, so far, it's working out for me, and we'll go from there. Let's take you through what we've got in here. So on the end, I've got some brassicas that Rich next door gave us, a bit of overspill that he had going. We've got some GrowYourOwn cabbage, a calabrese, and some purple sprouting broccoli. I can get an head start with a bit, but definitely with the cabbage and the calabrese. I'll get them in the brassica cage soon once that's straightened out. So as you'll see, mine have only just germinated. My climbing beans, Blue Lake I've gone for, French variety. They took well up the arch last year, we'll give them another go this year. Peas, I've got Hearst Green Shaft here. I've got another tray, so I'm going to do the beans up one side of the arch and the peas up the other side of the arch, the same as last year. I've got another tray, it's peas. I think it's out, the labels fell out of it, but I'm pretty sure I chucked in whatever, I did alderman last year. I'm pretty sure whatever I had left over, I chucked in a tray, and it's the only tray that doesn't say alderman on, and from what's coming up now, it looks like peas. Next tray along, I've got my brassicas in. I've got golden acre cabbage, calabrese stromboli, purple sprouting broccoli, all year round cauliflower, two types of kohlrabi. I've got white Vienna and delicacy white. I just did I think it was the delicacy white that we did last year, and it was nice. I just couldn't pick it quick enough and it went a bit over. And red cabbage as well, red acre cabbage we've got in there. I've also got a little tub of cornflour going at the back. Tray at the front, it's all sunflowers. We've got Titan, I've got 9 of them left over from last year. And then Giant Grey Striped is the variety that I've gone for this year. So we'll see how they got on. I was hoping to save a load of the Titan seed from last year. Harvested them off the plant, harvested the heads off the plants, left a couple out for the birds, left the 3 biggest heads in here. And when I come in, it must have been about Christmas time. I picked the top one up and a mouse jumped out, and a mouse had ate a lot of them. So yeah, that's what happened to that. So I've got one more tub down here, and like I said, I've gone for some flowers. They're all perennials, so I'm hoping we can cram the borders full of them, and they should self-seed and keep coming back every year. We've got some aquiledias, some salvia, some hollyhocks, and some lupins. So hopefully, I can cram the border full of them, and hopefully they'll keep turning over for a couple of years. Well, that's the plan with it anyway. I think next year, this is definitely going to get covered over for winter. I left it open to the elements this year, and this winter, I left it open to the elements, and the amount of grass that's come through is a bit ridiculous. So I think next year, or next winter, come potatoes are out, we'll get it covered over with something. I'm just giving it a good hoeing over now just to keep the weeds at bay. Looking in my trenches, I have got 1 or 2 starting to come up. A couple of the first earlies there that were the Pentland Javelins, I can just see 1 or 2 poking up now. But what I also can see is the likes of here and there and there as well. There's 1 or 2 that are poking up in between the trenches. Now the ones that are on the edge of the trenches, maybe it's screw round that way, but the ones that are bang in the middle of the trench, I'm putting that down to potatoes from last year that I missed. And I suppose it's one of the, maybe not disadvantage, but it's one of the things that would sway me to maybe grow your potatoes in buckets, not straight in the ground. it's one of the things I want to look at doing in future, is grow potatoes in buckets. Because like you say, it's a big area of ground to maintain. How I have the plot set out with the paths, I've got plenty of room down each path to put a row of buckets in, and I could have this large area for growing other stuff. Like you say, we'll leave them in and we'll see what comes up in the middle and everywhere. But yeah, but definitely something for the future is to look at growing potatoes in buckets. I'll just get on with hoeing this, and I'll give you a little look round at the stuff we've been doing this bank holiday. I'll just show you the garlic. The garlic's doing great. There. First 2 beds and the first sort of 6 in that bed, the regular sized garlic, and these are the elephant garlic. Romping away. Onions aren't doing so great. These ones aren't bad, these are the white onions. These ones up here were red onions. For some reason, I have always been terrible on here for red onions. I just don't do very well with them at all. So these 4 beds here, well no sorry, these 4 rows of beds here, plus the end one there with the comfrey in. Very end one, that was full of grass, them 3. I've cleared it out, that first one. I've just covered them over. I added a lot of squash in there last year. Didn't do too great. I think I'm just going to rest them beds for the year, the ones that are covered over. Not sure what's going to go in that one yet, but I've got more beds to sort out, so for the time being they can be covered over. Now all these ones, what we essentially did was I ended up double digging them. Now I sit on the fence with no dig or dig. I think there's a bit of both sides. I don't see why you have to pick. I think a lot of people are quite narrow-minded with it and feel like they have to pick a side.
Daddy!
What, mate?
They cold.
I feel like a lot of people feel like they have to pick sides and it's one side or the other. I sit on the fence with it. I can see benefits of both. But here we ended up, it was full on double digging. I'd laid the manure out on top of all the beds. Well, we got the manure delivered in October. I stacked it up on top of the potato patch and let it rot down a bit longer there. Then come January, February I think it was, I laid enough manure out on top of each bed that I thought each bed would take in. Laid it out on top and just left it. The top layer of it sort of I got a crust on top of it. But when you flicked it over, it was still quite moist underneath and it was packed with worms. The worms weren't taking it in. So I think for next year, I'm going to put the manure down. I'm going to put the manure down and cover it with cardboard or something. Keep it dark and the worms will pull it in. But what we ended up doing here, it was double digging. I started at one end, raked the manure back to the other end of the bed, dug the top layer of soil off, put it in the wheelbarrow. Manure in the hole, soil off that half of the bed to cover the top of it, and then just moved along like that. And the manure off there went in that hole, and the soil off there went in that hole, and so on and so on and so on. So the soil that come out the first hole ended up going in the very last hole at the end. It took me longer than it should to figure out that rhythm of how to do it, and the first few beds I did, there was a lot of moving soil and moving manure 2 or 3 times. But once you get into the rhythm of it, we flew through it. So I've got the beds up the top end to do and the brassica cage. I think I'm going to do the brassica cage a bit differently. I might just lace that with the chicken manure pallet, and we need to get a bit of lime down in there, I think, because we've got a slight club root problem, and from reading into club root, lime seems to be my friend. So I'm going to have a bit more of a read up on that. Then before any brassicas go in, you know, we've got a few weeks yet. I'll show you the seeds in a bit. I've got a bit of time, so I can get all in there prepped, ready for it. So here's a little tip, or one of the things that I do anyway, is when I am weeding, I get patches like this, couch grass, couch grass, switchgrass, whatever you want to call it, but at the end of the day it's grass, right? So we have the grass path up and down. Obviously over the winter it takes a bit of a beating. Obviously over the winter it takes a bit of a beating. Wheelbarrow up and down it, just footfall up and down it. I usually try to stick to, as soon as I get to near the wood chip bit in the winter, come off the grass path and down there, just so it doesn't, don't do that mate, just so it doesn't wear out the path. But one of the things I do is when I am weeding, if we get a patch like that, so we look up and down the path and we find a slightly bare patch, and all I do is just rough the soil up slightly with that, get your patch, stick it in, and stamp it in. 9 out of 10 times it does take, and come the back end of spring the path's fully rejuvenated. So run over it once or twice with a mower and it keeps it under control. You know, I'm obviously I know it's one of them things that I'm never too sure whether to put it in the compost or not. You know, does my compost pile get hot enough to get rid of couch grass roots? I doubt it. Someone on here might tell me differently, but instead of just binning it, I'll reuse it in the path there. You know, I've seen people leaving it out to dry, to kill it off, drowning it in buckets of water. I'll just keep adding to the path. You know, come every winter, it takes a beating, and if we can rejuvenate it like this, well, so be it. Making use of something that's already there, so, isn't it? We've got this apple tree here in behind us. This one, I've had it in my back garden in a big tub for, bloody hell, it must have been there 6 or 7 years, and it's never done particularly well. We had 1 year, it did really well. The last few years we've only got 1 or 2 apples off it, and this year there was only 1 apple on it, and the dog jumped up and ate that one. So it's coming here. We're moving house, so I've had to get it shifted. Ideally I'd have done it in the winter, but things don't always work out as they should do they? So it just started to come into blossom, so we've moved it now. I've got a cherry tree to come as well, but that's in full blossom, so I'm gonna let that, I've got a couple of weeks before we're moving, so I'm gonna let that have its show, and then we'll move it over once it's finished blossoming. Otherwise it'll end up everywhere, it'll all blow off it, car will be full of it, it'll be everywhere. Just show you from this angle. So we've got the gifted apple tree, pond, magnolia trees in full bloom. We come along and the apple tree we've bought from home. So in the middle there, that's where the cherry tree is going to go in there. Cherry tree is going to go in there. It's almost going to be sacrificial for the birds to have the cherries, but they can have them. If it brings some more birds on, might help pick a couple of pests off while they're here. So yeah, just a little patch of tulips. That's all coming up now. And there are gladioli. They're coming up now along there. If you look along the border, you can see the daffs coming through. There's some more tulips trying to come through up there. Daff at the back. There's another little patch of them there. So like I say, hopefully we can get this border full of all sorts, and it should look fantastic. Right, so that's that, guys. Hope you've all enjoyed having a look around with me and everything. And I'll see you in the next one. Don't forget to comment, like, subscribe and all that. And yeah, take it easy guys, see you later.